Hi, students. So today's lesson, we're going to talk about emergencies. That didn't make sense. Why did I just say that? So today's lesson is going to be on emergencies, right? There's an emergency, right? Something that's really important. So the goal for today is to be able to ask for information in English, right? So what we're going to do is, it says predict, right? It means to think about or talk about something before you know what's happening, right? So it says, look at the picture. What is the problem? What is Victor, that's this person. What is Victor doing? It says, then listen and practice the conversation. Ooh, okay, so let's look at this. So what does this look like to you? What's going on in this picture, right? So we can see that there are people talking right here, and we see that he's standing here and touching this part of the car, right? So it looks like it was a car accident, not a serious one, but like a fender bender is what we call it in English, is what you might know it as, a fender bender, right? Something where nobody's really hurt. The car can still drive. It's just, you need to exchange licenses and information. Sometimes you need to call the police if it's on public property, so that they can come and say, all right, this is a report, so that you can give it to your insurance company and say, look, I didn't do anything wrong, it was the other person, so the insurance knows. Or to protect you, or if the other person is like, no, I don't want to give you my information, but they hit your car, you can call the police to have them come, so that person has to give you their information, right? Because there was an accident. So that's what he's doing, right? He's calling, it seems like he's calling someone. He could be calling his insurance, right? Sometimes you don't have to call the police. Sometimes both of you say, okay, something went wrong. Let's exchange information and call our insurance, right? So you can call your insurance to say, hey, somebody just hit me. What do I need to do? And they'll tell you, right? So that's what he could be doing. He could be calling the police to have them come to write a report, right? A traffic report. You could have, he could be calling his work, right? That's another thing he could be doing. He could be on his way to work, and he could be calling work and saying, hey, I'm going to be late. I got in an accident, right? So he could be calling work. He could be calling home saying, hey, I'm going to be late coming home. I got into an accident, right? So there's lots of people he could be calling. Maybe it was a lot more serious, right? And somebody got really hurt, right? Or somebody isn't feeling well after. They could be calling an ambulance, right? Okay, so I'm going to read the conversation and you can follow along. So the operator, the first person says, what is the emergency, right? So if you dial 911, they ask you, where is your emergency? Or sometimes they ask you what is going on. But usually when I've called 911, they ask me, where is the emergency? And then you can tell them what is happening. But they want to know where it is as soon as possible, so they can send somebody. So Victor says, there is a car accident. The operator says, where is the accident? And Victor says, oh, it's on 4th and Bush. So he gives the street names. And the operator says, what is your name? And he says, it's Victor Karaskov, right? And the operator asks, is anyone hurt? And Victor says, yes, please send an ambulance, right? So they ask you if anyone's hurt, so they know if to send an ambulance, right? Normally in the United States, if you call 911, if you say that there was an accident, they will always send a fire truck and an ambulance. Even if you call the police, if it's something that's an emergency, they'll usually send the fire truck and the paramedics, an ambulance. But you usually see paramedics, which is the ambulance, and you see a fire truck together, because there's kind of a rule that they send both just in case something is happening, right? So that's something you need to remember, is that they usually don't, you don't have to ask, send an ambulance, send a police officer, send a fire truck. Usually if you tell them what's going on, they will just send everybody that they need to. So you're good. So I've saw a car accident once that was really bad. And so when I called 911, they said, where is the emergency? I told them where I was, and I wasn't on streets. I was on the highway, right? I was on the highway. And so I had to tell them I'm on I-15 southbound between this exit and this exit. I had to say the two exits that we were between and the direction that we were going, right? So that they know which side to be on. And then they asked me if anybody was hurt, and I had to say yes, and they were asking me the condition of the person, and then they would give me instructions. That's the other thing. Sometimes they'll give you instructions over the phone. So for example, they asked me if the person was still breathing, and he was kind of having trouble breathing. And so I had to say, it's very faint. It's, faint breathing. And they said, are they safe? Or can you pull them to the side into safety? So usually they say, don't move them because they could have a spinal injury. But sometimes, like my case, I was on a highway and there was a guy in the road. And so we had to make sure that he was protected. So we had to pull him over closer to the side, right? And then the other part is that he had a helmet on, and the operator, the 911 dispatcher, was said, do not take off his helmet. Right. So you want to be able to listen. Sometimes they'll give you instructions if somebody's hurt or there's an emergency. Right. So you probably already know this. I'm sure, hopefully it hasn't been serious, but maybe you've had to call 911 a few times. Right. Okay. So answer the questions. Who's calling about the emergency? Well, we know Victor is calling. What is the emergency? There's a car accident. Where is the emergency? Well, he says it's on 4th and Bush, right? So that's the emergency. With a partner, make a new conversation. Use one of the ideas, right? So this is to just kind of practice having to, I don't want you to really call 911 because you're not supposed to if it's not an emergency, but practice out loud saying this, because when it happens, you're kind of already freaked out, right? You're nervous, you're worried. And so sometimes we forget everything when our adrenaline is going, right? So practicing is the best way. So if you call 911 and the 911 says, what's your emergency? You can say, a man, let's practice this one, right? A man is having a heart attack, right? A man, sometimes we don't know exactly what's going on. We can say, oh, a man's having a medical emergency, right? He's laying on the ground, he can't breathe. And then they say, where is your emergency? You can say, oh, my emergency is, you can say a building, right? If it's inside. If it's outside, you have to give the streets. Sometimes if it's the building, you have to give the address of the building or the streets that the building is on, right? But if it's a house, you can give the house address, right? So like on this one, it says a house is on fire. 911, what's your emergency? A house is on fire, right? 234 Jones Avenue is the address, right? You can give it to them. Next one, there is a car accident. Now this one's going to be on a road, right? So you can say, oh, it's on 1st and Grant. This is where it's at. So we can say there's a car accident. Somebody's having a medical emergency. A house is on fire. The other thing that you have to remember is you guys work in a hospital, right? So hospitals, buildings sometimes have their own, what they call protocol, right? So protocol is just the way that they do things, the list of things that they do when something happens. So if there's an emergency, for example, the place I used to work, if there was an emergency, we wouldn't call 911 first, which seems weird, but it's true. What we would have to do first is when there's an emergency, we had to call the university police, because the university police, because my campus was so big, right? You might know this because it's the University of Utah, because it was so big, just calling the police and saying, oh, it's here, they don't know the area well enough and can't move through the campus on the inside and not use the streets. They can go, right? The University of Utah Police can drive through campus and not just on the roads, right? So we call them. And then if there's something more serious, what they will do is contact the emergency people that need to come and give them specific instructions, right? So sometimes when you work in a certain building, if there's an emergency, there's an emergency button you push, right? There is a phone number that you call for the security that's in the building that's already there, right? So just remember that that's something else that you have to kind of keep in mind. Okay, so it says write the letters next to the correct symbols. So this is a medical center, right? So let's look and see. So we have this word right here. It says lobby, right? And then we have main entrance, visitor parking, waiting room, emergency room. And then we have this little picture, right? It's an ambulance and an arrow. So I have this. Okay, so let's go through and look at everything, right? So the first thing is, what do you think shows, what symbol shows a wheelchair entrance? Okay, so I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. So let's look at this. So where is the wheelchair entrance? So if you'll see right here, right, this is a wheelchair entrance, right? So this is what that means on a map, is it means that somebody can come in with a wheelchair or just anything that's on wheels, you can roll in that way, right? Next one is information. So information is this one. It's like a lowercase I, right? And there's usually a desk, right? And that's where you can walk up and say, I need to go to this room. Or if there is an emergency and you don't know the address of the building, you can run to that place. You can say, what's the address of this thing? This person's having an emergency, or run up and tell them there's an emergency, please call 911, right? So that's information. Information is for whatever you need. Okay, the restrooms. Okay, so the restrooms. So we see that the restrooms are right here, right? So they have these little figures, these little people. The other thing is sometimes you'll see the wheelchair access, right, next to a bathroom sign. And it just means that if you are in a wheelchair, if you need to roll, right, if you're in any kind of rolling thing to help you get around, you can use that bathroom. Okay, and then the next one is the payphones. Payphones aren't really common anymore, but places still do have them. They are still around because everybody's phone dies or something goes wrong. So they still have them, but not as much as they used to. So that one's right here. It's just a telephone picture with little buttons, and then the old telephone, right? The one that you, some of you are probably like, that's not old, but it is to young kids now. They don't know how to use those phones. And then number 6 is the elevators. So the elevators are these, right? These little up and down. Sometimes it will say elevators. And then the ambulance entrance, that one's right here, right? So this is a little ambulance. When you see a car that has the little red cross on it, that means medical stuff, right? Medical ambulance. Okay, probably already know these things, but it's good to see these words written out, right? So let's look at this word right here. So we have the wheelchair entrance. And then we have information, the restrooms, the payphones, the elevators, the ambulance entrance, right? Oh, keep popping that up. Okay. Next one is using is or are. Where is information? It is here. Where are the restrooms? They are here. So you'll want to remember, I've taught this before in another lesson. Remember that when we use I am, he is, she is, it is, we are, you are, they are. It's kind of the same when we talk about objects, subjects, right? Where is the information, right? It's is because we're talking about it like it's one thing. Where are the restrooms? There's a lot of them, right? There can be 2 restrooms. There can be a lot of toilets in one restroom, right? So restrooms, plural, we say where are. But if you were saying where is the restroom, that means you're just talking about one. But in English, it's okay to say, where is the restroom? But if you say, where are the restrooms? It's meaning plural, like where are all of them? Whereas where is the restroom is you're only looking for one, maybe the one that's closest, right? Okay, so next it says, practice the conversation, ask questions about places in the directory. So we can say, excuse me, where is the information? Or where is information, right? And they can point and you say, it is here, right? Excuse me, where are the elevators? They are here. So remember the location words we can use are here, there, trying to think of another one. So somebody could say, oh, it's right here, right? Oh, it's right here. The information is right here. Or you can say, oh, it's there, right? So you can point to an area and say, oh, it's right over there. Sometimes we can give more instructions, right? You can say it's over there, down the hall to the left, right? Okay, and then last thing we'll talk about today is it says, look at the conversations, complete the sentences. So we can look at the picture too. The elevators are close to, now remember close means like next to, right? The elevators are close to the restrooms. Where is the wheelchair entrance? Where is the wheelchair entrance? We can say, oh, the wheelchair entrance is next to the main entrance, right? Where is the payphone? Where is the payphone? You can say, oh, the payphone is in the lobby. It's in the lobby to the right, right? Where is the information desk? You can say the information desk is in the lobby, right? It's straight at the end of the lobby, right? That's the information. Now, what if I ask, where is the waiting room? And you're right here. And I say, oh, where is the waiting room? You could say, oh, the waiting room is right here. Yeah. Where is the emergency exit? Oh, the emergency exit is down the hall, right? So we can say. So now what I want you to do, this is kind of homework, but maybe you can practice whether you're at work or work tomorrow, if you work tonight, say, okay, I'm going to practice, just tell somebody, you know, my coworker, my boss, I'm going to say, can I practice some English stuff on you? Right? Can I practice some English lessons on you? And you can say, you can ask them, switch it, right? You can say, where is the restroom? Where are the restrooms? And you can listen to what they say, right? And then also practice, what if somebody asks you? Think about things people have asked you before, right? In the hospital that you've had to answer, right? Where is this meeting room? Oh, that's on the 4th floor, right? Where is the classroom? You could say, oh, it's down over here through the hall, right? You could say, where is, somebody might ask you, oh, where is the cafeteria? Oh, that's on the 6th floor. Yep, that's on the 6th floor across the bridge. That's where the cafeteria is. So since you work in a hospital, it can be really helpful to practice giving directions, right? I'm sure you get asked all the time. And also being able to ask people, right? Maybe you are doing something for the first time and you have to ask somebody, hey, where is this person's office? Where is Tiffany's office? Where is Stuart's office? Right? And they can tell you, oh, it's on the 4th floor. You go to the east side and it's down the hall, right? So the other thing to remember is one of the best ways to understand directions in very large buildings, at least for me, is understanding where north, east, south, and west are. So figure that out in your building, and then it's much easier to give directions, right? This way is south, this way is north, this way is east, this way is west, right? So I would practice it with you if we were in the building, but we can't really. So, but I hope this was an okay lesson. I know it's things that you are probably like, I'm not learning anything, but I promise you, practicing these things and listening to me talk, reading these as I talk to you about them. It's good practice. It's good practice. And all of you are really, really great at English anyways. So you could teach me English. So that's it for today, and I'll see you next time.